Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today it's going to be another little quick one. I want to talk about the E-unit. Now for those of you who know what this is, don't worry about it. Watch one of the other videos. For those of you that don't, this here is the piece that is pretty much, I guess, would be the brains of the Postwar Lionel locomotives, because this is where all of the power from the pickup rollers on the track come up and send the power out to the motor. And also, when you hit your directional switch on your transformer, it activates this, and this is what actually makes the train go backwards and forwards. So it's a pretty important piece, and it's pretty important to keep it clean and also to repair it if it starts to fail. This E-unit here, it's pretty common to pretty much all of the Lionel post-war locomotives. Some of them have a longer or shorter handle. Some of them are facing this way and are pointing down. That's usually the diesels. Sometimes this top part is switched around, but it's basically always this configuration. And they're all press fit together. There's no screws holding this thing together. So when you actually have to take it apart, you have to separate these two wings, you have to spread them open, and then all of the guts basically fall out of this thing. And the way that I do it, and the way most people do it, is you get some pliers in there, and you just crack it open. Maybe with a little more finesse than that, but that's basically the idea. Now, as you can see, you have these fingers in here, and there are also fingers on the bottom plate, which shot underneath here. Okay? So these fingers will come together around this drum, and how they contact on this drum actually controls the direction of the locomotive, forwards or backwards. Any more technical explanation that you need than that, I can't give it to you because I'm not sure. But I'm sure somebody in the comments who is well more knowledgeable about that stuff can help you out there. So what I'm going to do with this one in particular, this is a spare E-unit for myself, is I'm just going to kind of go over a bit of the cleaning of it. So as you can see, I was working on this drum here, and what you want to do is usually carbon builds up on all of the silver points on this thing. So again, I just use my trusty green Scotch pad, and I just clean that off like that. And that's done. That's all you got to do to that. Just leave it over there now. The fingers here are a little bit touchier. So let's try to get it in camera. As you can see, they're pretty dirty, right? They've been running along that drum for a very long time. This particular one is very original, so it pretty much is what it is. And you can see a lot of buildup on them. What you can't see, or maybe can't see, is how worn out the actual tip of this bend is. So there's not a lot of material left on there, and it makes them very delicate. And when they get this way, you have to be very careful when you clean them, or you have to just flat out replace them. So what I'm going to just show you right now is just the cleaning of it. So again, I'm just taking my green Scotch pad, and I'm just lightly brushing it over. I'm not applying any real pressure at all. And I don't want to, because I don't want to bend these fingers. If you bend them down and make them lose contact with this drum, the E-unit is not going to work. It's going to leave you with a buzzing locomotive likely, and things not going to go anywhere. So just a little bit of cleaning on those fingers. You can see how they shined up pretty good right now. And again, if you were here in real, maybe you can see the flat spot on top of them there. That white highlight, that's flat now. It's no longer a curved material, it's flat from running along this drum. So that's starting to wear thin. I have to keep an eye on that one. The other set of fingers is still locked in here, so we have to kind of gently work them out. You got to be really, really careful with them. There we go. Now we've opened it up wide. That's not going to damage the sides if you're at all concerned about that. It's got to unwrap these wires here. Okay, so we got these fingers out. So again, the round part of the finger is what makes the contact of the drum, just like that. And that's where all your dirt buildup is. So with these ones, I kind of give them a bit of support by putting my finger underneath them. Again, we don't want to bend them. And you just run my scrub brush over top of them, just lightly. And that's it. That's all they need. Okay? And as long as all the wires are in good shape, the insulation isn't busted, or you haven't broken the wires by trying to finagle this thing out, you can go ahead and just put them all back in there. Not a problem. It's a bit of a trick to do this, but that's basically it there. Just set them in. You can even get these wires in like that. The other part is the pawl, this here. And this just sits right in the center. It goes right up in the center of this coil. And this is the thing, through the magic of electricity and Lionel's technology, when you hit that direction switch, something happens in this coil and shoots this thing down. Spins the cylinder, changes the positions of the contacts of those fingers on here, and the train goes the other way, or sits in neutral. So the pawl, it's just a metal piece. It's not fragile at all. I just give it a quick rub. Usually this thing isn't dirty, ever. You don't need to oil it. As you can see, it's pretty loose as it is. The only thing you do have to remember is which direction this hook faces, so that it actually hooks onto the teeth of this thing. So this is how it's supposed to engage, if you can see that, right? So then this cylinder turns, click, click, fingers go into the next position, train runs the opposite way from what it was. Now, to get this back together, so as you can see, there's a little notch on the card here that these fingers are on. And this particular notch goes into the side here. Just like that. Okay, and there's one on the other side. So when you close these two sides, it'll hold this thing fast in there. So what I usually do for these, and the pawl has these two tracks on either side that pin has to go through. And that's what guides it. It rides up and down in there. So if you can see that, okay? So that's how that works. This piece is at the bottom, and it's the same thing. Okay, it's got these little notches on the card bit, and they fit into here. So they will sit like this. Okay? Now, it's a bit of a trick to get this whole thing back together, because there is a tool designed specifically to do this. I've seen it on eBay. It's expensive as hell. So I've just learned to get really good at holding on to many things at the same time while I'm trying to put this thing back together. So, like I said, first thing, you get your piece into the notch in the sidewall. And what I usually do is I try to get everything all on one side, so I just got to bring the other wall in. Alright, so what we will do here is we'll pull the pawl up a little bit so we can drop the cylinder in. And I'll try to do this so you guys can see what I'm doing, but it is difficult. It took me quite a few attempts on an E-unit in order to just get it back together right. And if you've spread the walls apart too far, you can bring them in a little bit to make it a little bit easier for yourself. Just like that, you kind of hold it there. And also, on the drum sits into these holes in the side. It has little pegs sticking out of it. Everything is just pressure fit in here. Nothing is screwed down. If your E-unit is screwed down, somebody did that to it. So while we've kind of got everything loosely fit, I'm going to put the second set of fingers in right here. And now I'm going to try to line everything up and crimp the whole thing down. And what I use to crimp it down is a pair of channel locks. And I get them set fairly wide ahead of time, so I'm not fussing around with this thing, because as you'll see, once you get everything lined up, it's a pain in the neck to hold it in position while you crimp that down. So, set this, there we go, seats in, oh, fell out. And the other thing that's going to be a real problem, so the drum is one problem. This pin here, this support pin, it's the thing that usually ends up causing the next issue, just because it's so hard to snap it back into position. So, here we go. Let's try to do this. So we've got our one set of fingers in. We've got our drum set in. We've got the next set of fingers put in. We'll try to see if gravity can help us a little bit by holding it all down there. Like so. No. I think I'm going to try to bring the sides in a little bit closer now. There we go. Obviously you don't want to snap it right together yet, because you still got to get a whole bunch of parts and pieces in there. So I've got it on the camera. I've closed it in a little bit. I'm just moving this drum into position. The pawl is hooking onto the teeth like it's supposed to. Now, I think I've closed it a bit too much though. I'm going to back it up a little bit without damaging those fingers. There we go. Get gravity to help us again. And we close it up. Almost had it. There we go. My drum is a little bit out of whack, so I can get my needle nose in here and try to gently bring it up into position. You don't want to squeeze it too hard because you don't want to wreck those teeth. So everything is looking pretty good. I can see this side is in the right position. This side, I can see the cylinder's pin is there. The cylinder's pin is there. This one's in, the pawl is in. So now I get my channel locks and I squeeze them. Sometimes you'll hear a pop, sometimes you'll hear nothing. But if you can't squeeze it anymore, don't force it too much harder. You don't want to break it, but that's it. So that's all together now. So we're going to have our pawl. We can pull it up, and then it will disengage, go to the next tooth, bring it around. The cylinder spins nice and free. Our fingers are all touching. Let's get it on camera again. Our fingers are all touching the cylinder, as you can see, the way they're supposed to. So this E-unit is ready to go back into a locomotive, and it will continue to work perfectly fine now. One little extra thing, this handle gets loose. And the reason it gets loose is this little grommet washer thingy just gets worn out and the handle gets a little bit sloppy. The best way to fix this is when you've got this apart, you also carefully, you can get your needle nose in here and you can spread this top part open, and that will allow the top part to come off. And all you do at that point, because you have full access to this now, is you'll slide your needle nose pliers in and you'll press down on this from both sides. So one from this side, one from the top. Squeeze it back down. That will tighten the handle and everything will be perfect again. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the E-unit. I hope you guys found this helpful. I know once I figured out how to work this thing and how to clean it and replace what needed replacing, it meant everything. It meant a much longer life for a lot of my locomotives and a new life for them in some cases. So, once again, thanks for watching. Hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care now, guys. Bye-bye.